Alright, welcome everyone to another video. I'm going to be doing some middle game positions here for the next couple videos. I've just got a new book about some tactics, and I think I'll just do some videos while I go through it and share some of the things that I've been learning. Tactics are very important, so for my students, we did this past semester, they're now in summer, but this past semester we worked on some checkmating patterns. And sometimes in the middle games, there's not always checkmate threats. That's one part of the tactics that we learn, but there's also the part of tactics where we're trying to win material or to get some kind of a decisive advantage. And so we're going to look at, they're all going to be mixed in. So we'll just start with this first one here. And in this problem, if you've already looked at it, you know, we like to look at forcing moves first, captures, checks, and other forcing moves. So in this one, the first move might seem rather obvious, but let's go through it just one move at a time and find out how those are the best moves. So in this first example, it's going to be knight f6, check. Now, yes, the check is the obvious first move here, but more importantly, though, we're opening up this attack here, which is a discovery attack on this rook, and it's going to matter here in a little while as to why that's the better move. King's going to get out of the way, so we are in check. This is one idea. And then the next move is going to be rook takes on d7. And then after black exchanges, then we're going to play surprising move, surprising move. Don't be too quick. Don't be too quick, because we have a stronger move. And that's rook to d1. And here, the problem ends with the evaluation that white wins. So we're going to go back and let's look at some of the different variations, and then we'll come back here and we'll see analyze some lines as to why this is why white is winning here, and what we're going to do next. So let's go back. So after knight takes here, this checking move, we're adding another attacker against the rook. So you might think, okay, right now we moved king f8, but also moving the king to d8 was also an idea. We'll look at that here in a second. There was also another plan that black could have done. What if you say, well, Aaron, what if we just take the knight? That's an idea. Okay. But then white can just play. Well, first white has to retake here on f6. I think there's a move where we could take with the pawn and we can take with the bishop. One is more forcing than the other. I think both of them have threats. So let's just try the bishop taking first, because we're attacking the rook now here on this discovery, this new attack here. Black could move out of the way, but they could also do a forcing move of their own and try to just take here with check, with rook takes. And in this line, black actually created another threat for themselves, another problem for themselves, and that's a checkmate in one threat. So now black loses the material, because now we have to get our king out of this checkmate pattern. Let's just show it real quick. If we try to save the rook, just try to save the rook, get out of the way, and then we get checkmated here, and the game's over. So here black has to try to get out of this checkmate. Now this pawn can't move, so we can't get a king to get ourselves some space here. So actually we're having to lose material here, even if we maybe withdraw the bishop here now to block the checkmate square. But now we can either just get into a winning endgame here. We can first take the rook and be greedy, or we can try to go into a winning endgame just by taking, and then we take the rook. But sometimes I think just taking the material right away here would be just as good, because the threat on d7 here still exists, and perhaps maybe we can just find another way of trading off these pieces without giving away our rook. Maybe just trading bishop for bishop or knight for bishop later on in the game. So let's go back. So trading the knight here for black isn't so great because it's going to lead to a checkmate for them. Anyway, let's look at here. We looked at rook takes, bishop takes, and yeah, here taking with the knight would also, it wouldn't be wrong, but you know, we're letting the king out, and we could still bring in the rook this way with rook to d1 and still move the knight out of the way. Let's say to this square, just moving out of the way and opening up the checkmate attack again. This is also an idea, but we're leaving black still with some counterplay, and so not as strong of a line. I believe here the rook to d1 line that was given was probably a little bit better, just because it pins this bishop up against the rook move here, and let's see what could happen here. Yeah, what black doesn't want to defend here, because the bishop's then going to get taken next with check. So this is actually a little bit stronger. Let's just see if the bishop let's just get the bishop out of the way. We want to keep our material. Let's create something of an attack, but then the rook comes in with a check. King comes out. Oh, and now we have nasty discovery double attack checks here along this diagonal, defending our rook, and then probably creating more pressure against this rook here. Wow. Let's see if we can't finish the game somehow with a double check. It just feels like there's a win here tactically. Let's just try this move. So now we've got a double check on the king. The king has to move when there's a double check. It's not enough just to capture, because we're still in check by the other piece. Double checks are really strong moves. We can't take the rook because it's defended by the bishop. So let's just move the king up. Only move. Only moves are usually the easiest to calculate. And yeah, and now we can continue an attack. We've got knight checks here, knight check here, and then we're taking the pawn. The king's just kind of inching upward, probably into a checkmating net, which is what we would like to do. But you know me, I don't like giving away too many pawns. But we can do one more check and then liquidate. I'm not sure. Let's go back. Here, just check, take here. It looks like everything's defended for the moment. And then, let me see, I'm not really seeing a checkmate here, but we can just see about getting rooks off the board and going into a winning endgame. This just seems a little too good for black, maybe. There's just still a lot of counterplay for black. So let's see if we can find a stronger move. after the king comes out, we could get a little bit spicier with maybe knight takes pawn here. So now we threaten to take the bishop, winning material. Yeah, I think this is a little bit stronger move. Knight h5 check. Because the same only move is available to black, and now we can take with check. Yes, exactly. Winning material. Now the king has only move, taking the pawn, and now we win the rook. So we win a lot more material in this line. I think this is probably the better line. Yep, and now black is hopelessly lost in this position. So let's promote the line. Promote, make the main line. There we are. And that was probably the better solution here that the author wanted us to find. We're going back to the main line. After king f8, rook takes, bishop takes, and then rook to d1 is the much stronger move for this, because the idea is that no matter if black tries to save the bishop, we are now winning a bunch of material because of this discovery check. And black is just stuck. Okay, very nice. So sometimes with the authors, they leave the with these middle game tactics problems. Sometimes they just leave it. They just do a couple moves and they just leave it. Hey, this wins, and we have to just take a few moments and kind of play out the position to its more logical conclusion, so that we get the practice when we're playing tournament games. We're able to see the tactics, and then we're able to win the positions. From this point, the win is pretty simple. What we're just going to want to do is use our minor pieces, because we have three minor pieces to black's 2 minor pieces, and so we'll just trade. We'll trade our pieces off, and then try to simplify into a winning king and pawn endgame once all these pieces are gone. So thank you very much. Let's just play this one here, because after black takes here, right, when we're just going to keep grinding this out. Maybe try to save our pawn. Pawns here, put the pawns on our dark squares, and then maneuver this knight to try to get rid of this bishop, and then try to maneuver this bishop to get rid of this knight at some point, keeping our rook for the endgame. I think that's a better policy, and then eventually our pawns will outnumber black's pawns, so long as we don't lose any more of them, which we shouldn't. Okay, so thank you for this quick little lesson, and we're going to come back with more tactics as I go through this book. Thank you so much.